How's it, guys, and welcome back to my channel. And in this video I want to break down what it really means to scale your portfolio. And the reason I bring this up is it's a common topic. In fact, 100% of the times at my 2-day property workshop, people always say to me, I said, so what's your expectations? Why have you come this weekend? And the answer for a lot of people is, Andrew, I feel stuck and I want to scale my portfolio. And I asked them, but what do you mean you want to scale my portfolio? Well, Andrew, I bought a few properties and I bought them in the wrong entity, and I've run out of disposable income, and I just don't know how to go to the next level. So what level would you like to go to? Well, I just want to make more cash flow. Well, let's get specific then. How much cash flow do you want to make? Because you're talking about scaling your property portfolio. Now, that could mean for those of you watching, you might have one property, you want to scale it to 2 or 3. You might be watching this with 5 residential properties, and you want to scale it but into commercial. So first, break down, what does scaling mean to you? And how best do we scale? And I want to break that down and start talking about some of the fundamental things that you do need to get right. The first thing that I want to make sure that you get right is you've got to be buying in the right entities for the purpose of getting the right type of funding. Now, if you're buying properties in your own personal name and you want to build a bigger property portfolio, you'll find that when you go to a tax advisor and you go to those specialists, that probably you bought in the wrong entity. Now, I can't tell you exactly what the right entity is because I don't know all of you, but it's more than likely going to encompass, it's going to have property companies involved, holding companies involved. There might even be trusts involved. It depends what you're trying to achieve. But by buying through the right entities like companies, there's certain strategies we can use to actually maximize your lending. Now, just a quick note on this. A lot of agents that I've come across, when I talk about, I want to buy a property through a company, but the company hasn't traded yet. In fact, I don't have the property yet. They tell me that, no, I can't buy a property through a brand new company because there's no trading records. I haven't filed my financials. It is dormant. That's absolute rubbish. Of course, you can buy through a dormant company. I get a letter from my accountant. I tell them that it's a brand new company off the shelf. The only difference is that you would stand surety for the loan that the bank's going to give you against that property. All the bank wants to know is that they have surety. If the surety can't come from the PTY, it comes from you personally. It's the same thing. It's surety. So step number 1, make sure that you buy in the right entity. Now, if you have gone and you bought in your personal entity, what I would say is reach out to us. Let us put you in touch with the right people to see if we need to start moving stuff around. And how do we take your portfolio, it's called the blueprint, and how do we make sure that you maximize your equity and your affordability? Because that's another conversation, right, guys? If you've got a property portfolio right now, and you've got equity in it, so you've got a property over here and a property over there and a property over there, and you've got some really good equity. Let me ask you this question. What's that equity doing for you right now? As in, are you making money from it? Is it doing anything? Is it making you more wealthy? Is it bringing more cash flow in? The reality is it probably isn't doing much, and the cash flow is just sitting there, isn't it? So that's the second conversation. Once we know where the properties are going to sit, what are we doing with that equity? It might be, some of you may or may not have heard of what's called the universal loan with Absa Home Loans, where we can take a property portfolio and we can actually it's a long story, but we'll get a fund put in place where instead of taking equity out of this property and that equity, we put it all into one pot, and now we can and now we have a facility fund on one pot. Now we can start to use the equity that you already have, because some investors are equity rich but they're cash poor. So that's the second question I'll be asking you. After the entity question, then we start looking at the equity question, and how we're going to buy the properties and what are we doing with the equity. And then we start looking at the scalability of this. Some of you that are maybe starting out and you're struggling with your second property, and maybe then we go down the Absa Home Loan route, where they've got products such as the future rental product. What does that mean? As long as you own one property and you buy a second property, Absa Home Loans will take up to 70% of the future rental income of that specific buy-to-let, and they add it to your portfolio today to allow you to get that property. That's a massive cha-ching. It may be that to scale your portfolio that we need to do a couple of joint ventures, individuals who do have the affordability if you don't have any affordability. Then we start partnering with people in the network that do have affordability, that do have cash reserves right now. And it may be that you've got to partner with people just to take that next step. And depending where you are with your portfolio, scaling could mean that you're now ready for commercial. That's where Sapin Gold comes in. Personal invitation only, where we start talking commercial blocks of flats, warehouses, industrial developments. It may even just be a small three-story property, shops at the bottom, residential at the top. So it's a residential nature at the top, but it's commercial loans. But of course, remember with commercial loans, now we start talking 60% to 80% loan to value. That's a whole nother conversation. But when we talk about scaling, I want you to start thinking about have I bought in the right entities? Am I buying in the right entity? I want you to think about what am I doing with my equity? How am I restructuring the portfolio to take the equity to help me scale? I want you to think of products like the universal loans, the future rental products. I want you to think of joint ventures. How can you use other people's money to help you scale to the next level? And depending where you are, if you're at that point, let me know. That's when we take you to the next level, which is the commercial space, where it gets very exciting. There's great returns to be had. And that's where we're going to start, is with the conversation. So hopefully I've given you some food for thought. If you like this video, just like my YouTube channel, subscribe to it, share it with your friends. But stay tuned, because I'll be covering a lot more about scaling your property portfolio, commercial, and the lending aspect of all of it. Stay tuned, and we'll see you soon.